Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now, we buy a lot of cheap PCs here on this channel, but I never really talk about the process of selling them, something that I also do quite a lot of, because after I've tested these machines, they've obviously got to go to their new home. I wish I had the room to keep everything I build, but unfortunately that is not the reality. Now, sometimes I'll sell these PCs on as a whole computer, or I'll break them down and sell each component individually, and I wanted to talk about that today. This is a system that I recently purchased off the Facebook marketplace for £60. Inside this thing we had an FX 4300, 8 gigs of RAM, a 128GB SSD, as well as 500 gigs of storage, but it did come with a GeForce 210 graphics card. Now, anyone who's had experience with the GeForce 210 will know that it's a pretty shocking piece of kit and will struggle to run modern games, not only because of how weak it is, but because it suffers from a DirectX 10 limitation as well. And as we move forward, most games now use either DX11 or DX12. Now, this PC was in a different case when I purchased it, and it was advertised as a gaming PC. I wasn't 100% sure on the specs. I knew the processor and the RAM amount, but the graphics card was just described as a 1 gig Nvidia card. So I took the plunge, purchased the PC. I think £60 was a fair price considering we did get that AMD FX processor and decent enough memory. But today, I'm going to be talking about my experiences selling this. First of all, we must see how this so-called gaming system actually runs games. And yes, it isn't a brilliant experience. So I decided to start off going quite easy on the PC, and I fired up a game from 2005 called Gun. This is an absolute classic Western title, and it will certainly tide me over until Red Dead Redemption 2 comes to the PC. In all seriousness though, this is really a fantastic classic to play, and as you can see here, we've cranked things up to the high settings with a full screen resolution fix, so it is running at 1080p, and the game is capped at 30 FPS because I believe the PC version is a direct port from the PlayStation 2, and this was also an Xbox 360 launch title as well. As you can see here, it has no trouble maintaining the 30 FPS cap most of the time at full HD. Now, one of my most favourite Call of Duty games has to be the original Black Ops. I used to play this all the time on the PlayStation 3, and here I'm using the absolute lowest settings at 720p resolution in order to get the game to run with at least 30 frames per second. Now, if you want 60 FPS, I imagine you'll have to turn the resolution down even lower, perhaps to 800 by 600, but if you're happy with 30 here, then the frame rate seems to hold steady. In all honesty, the game doesn't look much worse on low compared to high, so you're not really missing much graphics wise, and I think in a first person shooter like this, it's just important to get as many frames as possible, especially if you're playing online where fast reactions are a necessity. Next up, I tried Fallout New Vegas, probably my favourite Fallout game in the series. It's either that or Fallout 3, and let's just say the in-game launcher was being a little optimistic when it first recognised my graphics card. I don't think medium settings are really going to go well here. Now, what I didn't realise is that I still had an ENB graphics mod installed, so the game ended up looking like this. Nonetheless, as you can see by the performance metrics, it still ran quite well, but I thought I'd keep this result in here just to show you that yes, Fallout New Vegas will run on a GeForce 210. In order to hit 30 frames per second in Grand Theft Auto 4, I had to turn the resolution down to 800 by 600 and lower the game settings all the way, as you can see here. Now, this is version 1.0.4.0. I downgraded it from the latest version, which is 1.8, I believe, simply because I made that graphics mod video the other day, and all of my mods work best on this version of the game, and it's also the best looking version of the game according to a few articles too. But it does have an issue where it won't recognise GPUs with over 3 gigs of VRAM. Still, that doesn't really matter when the 210 has 1 gig of DDR3. Thankfully, these settings were enough for us to average 30. Finally, it's Fortnite, a game that still runs on DX 10.1 graphics cards, even though I did have to turn things all the way down here. Now, the game was actually running at 1080p with a 25% resolution scale and everything set to low, just to ensure we got the most out of this one.
As you can see, it wasn't exactly a fantastic experience, but the game did touch 30 FPS in some instances, namely when we went indoors. Just like Call of Duty, this isn't ideal because this is a fast-paced online shooter, and the last thing you want is continuous dropped frames. You may actually be better using River Tuner to cap the game at 30 FPS when using a card like this to avoid some of the stutter that might occur should the game shoot above and below 30 on some occasions. Last of all, I gave Cinebench R15 a quick test just to check out the multi-core score, and as you can see it came in just below a Core 2 Quad X9650, which is pretty ancient. The FX 4300 here was never really praised along with most of the AMD FX chips, but they still can do an okay job today, especially the FX 8000 series, which I tested in a system not long ago.
So now that you've seen it perform, I want to talk about my experience selling this machine. Now I wanted to try and keep all of the components as original as possible. I didn't want to spend any more money on this. I just wanted to see if we could sell it and make a profit as it is. I did, however, move everything into a new case because the old one was falling apart, and I don't think it would have arrived at its new home in one piece hadn't I have swapped the case over. Plus, I think a good looking case is one of the main things that helps sell PCs at this price point. For example, if you look at some of those ultra fast gaming ones on eBay, the ones with the Core 2 Quads and GeForce 710s, you'll see that they often have decent looking cases, and I think the people who buy those aren't really gamers. They're just cheap PCs that people buy because they're half the price that they'd find one for in a store. It seems to be that if you've got a good looking case, decent storage capacity or an SSD, and your PC includes Windows, then you're guaranteed to sell it providing it's priced well enough. And so that's the market I try to target here. I bought it as a gaming PC, but I didn't sell it as one. Now the reason I'm making a video like this is because I do get quite a few questions regarding selling PCs. People ask me, is it a good idea to start doing this as a hobby for a bit of cash on the side, or even with the hope of turning it into a full-time business? And I think the best way to do it is target the everyday basic users with cheaper PCs. The profits are smaller, but you'll probably see a higher sales volume. So here's the ad I wrote for this computer. Are you looking for an ultra-fast gaming PC? Well, keep looking. What this PC lacks in gaming capability, it makes up for in everyday performance, and is ideal for the everyday general user. The 120GB SSD also ensures snappy boot times, and the 500GB backup drive means that you can store plenty of what's important to you. This machine also takes advantage of a quad-core AMD FX 4300 processor and 8GB of memory, and has Windows 10 Professional pre-installed and ready to go. So you can use your new PC straight out of the box. The 1GB GeForce 210 graphics card, as shocking as it is at playing games, can however handle HD video just fine. So while you can't play any modern games, you can watch other people play them on YouTube instead with crisp high-def clarity. Also pre-installed on this PC is Google Chrome and OpenOffice, which allows you to create Word documents, edit spreadsheets and design presentations with ease. Any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. See, I wrote an ad like that because it combines what I thought was a little bit of comedy with just good old-fashioned honesty. If you try and play games on this machine, it's not going to do very well, but for everyday use, it's pretty good. In the end, we have a PC that looks good on the outside, has a lot of storage, and comes with Windows 10 plus Google Chrome and OpenOffice pre-installed. I think the promise of some extra bundled software also entices people in, even though this is free software accessible to anyone. So the question is, did this PC sell? And I'm happy to reveal that yes, it did. I put this on Gumtree, eBay and Spock, and it eventually ended up selling to someone local on Gumtree for £140. I had it up for £150. They haggled me down a little bit, and I was more than happy to accept the offer, considering it cost me around £95 in total after I'd swapped it into a new case. So we've made a little bit of a profit there, £45, and our PC has gone to a new home where I'm sure it will be very happy. With all that said, thank you very much for watching. This has been a bit different. I wanted to look at things from the selling perspective as opposed to the buying perspective. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know if you buy and sell PCs and how well you do, whether it is your full-time occupation or whether you do it for a little bit of side cash. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Leave a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And hopefully I'll sell you all in the next one. I'll see you all in the next one. I've been recording. What's happened to the camera? It's broken. What are you doing? Oh, God. Oh, that's going in the outtakes.